Is the Victoria, BC real estate market on thin ice? If you've been following national headlines, you probably think so. Falling prices, sliding population growth, a potential tariff and trade threat with the United States, as well as the dreaded mortgage cliff. And in places like Toronto, we're seeing some of the worst sales data in Canadian history. But I can tell you, as someone that lives and breathes in this specific market, all of those themes don't necessarily apply to our market here on Vancouver Island. Nevertheless, I want to walk you through what I'm seeing and what I'm expecting to play out in 2026. Let's get into it. First, let's address the elephant in the room. Why do people think the real estate market's on thin ice? Well, a lot of that is tied to popular sentiment and what people are seeing on the news. We're seeing startling figures come out of major metros that paint the image that the sky is falling. As an example of this, new condominium sales in Greater Toronto and Hamilton plummeted to their lowest annual total since 1991, and activity in the region was 91% below the 10-year average. But comparing this to some of the data that's coming out of Victoria, we finished 2025 with just over 6,900 sales, and in the last 4 years, we've fluctuated between 6,000 and 7,000 sales for the year. This puts our 10-year average at just over 8,000 sales. But that 10-year average includes incredible years in 2016 and 2021, where we breached 10,000 sales for the year. Prices have also been remarkably stable for the last few years, and since the correction between the spring and fall of 2022, they've effectively been flat, although there's some minor variation in certain segments. One thing that stands in sharp contrast to this flat pricing is a significant amount of growth in inventory levels and the amount of options that buyers have over the last few years. Consider that at the end of January in 2022, there were 957 total properties for sale on the Victoria Real Estate Board. And now at the end of January in 2026, we have just over 2,500 active listings for sale. This also comes after seeing another decade high at the end of June in 2025 with more than 3,700 active listings. And there's one more thing that could impact inventory levels as we turn the page and look forward in 2026. The part of the ice that is a bit thin is for those that are renewing their mortgages across the country. The Bank of Canada has held their rate at 2.25%, and most analyst projections expect that to remain about the same for the balance of the year. Similar projections can be seen in fixed rate mortgages, although there's a number of factors at play that move those rates. But all the same, there isn't a lot of common sense telling us that rates are going to change significantly in 2026. That doesn't come as great news for around 600,000 Canadians who are going to see their monthly payments jump this year as they renew out of rock bottom fixed rates from 2021. Because of falling rates, the projected cliff is really more of a bump, and I don't expect it to affect Victoria significantly. But it's another financial stress that will continue to push homeowners to sell. A small portion of mortgage downsizers may move into lower price points, and it's yet another strain on investors who are facing declining median rents across the city as purpose-built rental stock and stagnant growth continue to soften rent prices. Broadly speaking, a lot of the investment excitement that occurred through the pandemic and low rates has virtually evaporated from the market, and most of the buying and selling that we're seeing is for end users on the residential side. Nevertheless, whether you're an end user or an investor, I think both types of property owners could be surprised to see the amount of competition that we see once we get into the spring market of 2026. And I wouldn't be surprised if we crossed 4,000 listings once we get into May or June. So is the market on thin ice? No, but we've reset to more fundamental market drivers: supply, demand, rates, inventory. Watch all of those as we move into 2026. For buyers, take your time and don't be scared or panicked into finding something before you reach the massive options that we may see as we get into the spring, summer. And for sellers, strategy is more important than ever. Make sure you have a clearly defined plan, particularly based on the segment of the market that you're in, and talk to your realtor about potential timing advantages at one time in the year or another. Overall, I would expect more of the same in 2026. I'm going to predict that as the year unfolds and more consumer confidence comes back into play, we'll see demand slowly start to turn back towards our 10-year average, and I would expect us to end the year with more than 7,000 sales. In the same vein, we'll probably see inventory reach another decade high, and I would expect that we cross 4,000 listings as we get into the spring, summer. likely stalling any potential price growth that demand might support. All the same, I'm going to try and do more of this and bring you more insights into the Victoria, BC real estate market in 2026. My next video is going to be all about targeting locations where I see great long-term upside. So make sure you like this video and subscribe for more great content on our beautiful city, and I'll see you next time.